Hi, I'm Eric McNulty. I'm the Associate Director of the National Preparedness Leadership Initiative at Harvard. I'm also co-author of the book, You're It, Crisis, Change, and How to Lead When It Matters Most. I write regularly for Strategy and Business Magazine, Harvard Business Review, and other publications, and I speak around the world on the topic of crisis leadership. It's a topic I'm passionate about because in these turbulent times, we have to understand how we as individuals, as teams and organizations can not just survive, but thrive, to know how to navigate through adversity, to find opportunities for growth, to find opportunities for contribution, how to bring ourselves together to achieve more than we ever thought possible. That's what it means to lead every day, as well as when it matters most. If you want to lead effectively in a crisis, the first thing you need to do is to flip the question and ask, why would anyone follow you in particular, during this crisis? What about you and what you do is going to make you worthy of following? The first thing is you have to be sure that you are invested in the larger purpose and the followers. This cannot be about you. It's got to be about them, your shared journey, your shared desire to overcome the obstacles in front of you. Secondly, you have to have confidence, but confidence paired with humility. So over the years, I've done a lot of sailing and kayaking. And when you get in rough waters, first, you never can lose faith in your ability to handle your craft, to handle your boat. But secondly, you have to have deep respect for Mother Nature, because those waters can overwhelm you at any time. That's what makes a crisis a crisis. You could be overwhelmed, yet you have to maintain your faith in yourself and those around you to get through it. Third, you need to be forthright. People can handle the truth. So tell them how bad it is, but also simultaneously give them hope. Show the confidence that you have that you'll all get through it. Fourth, communicate clearly. Tell people what direction you're setting, what your strategy is, what role they have in it, what they're going to do, what you're going to do, what you're going to do together. So don't make it all about you. Have confidence paired with humility. Be forthright and honest with people, and communicate clearly. If you can get those four things right, you'll be a more effective crisis leader. When I'm trying to understand how people are going to behave after a crisis or how our behavior is going to evolve, I look two places. I look to cities and I look at nature, because they are both excellent laboratories of complexity. I think that as we come out of this COVID-19 response, we're going to see a basic rethinking of our social compact. We're going to be thinking about how do we relate to each other in new and different ways. And one of the great things about the time right now, as difficult as it is, as much adversity as we're facing, is we are seeing people come together, doing amazing things. And that's everyone from the healthcare workers to our first responders to the folks who are already beginning to work at recovery. We have seen people giving yoga classes online, pulling together in new and very innovative ways. And that's terrific. Now, for the last few decades, we've really emphasized individual achievement. I think what we're seeing now is a rebalancing. So we will again value our collective achievement, our ability to be together. We have to remember that strong individuals come from strong communities, and strong communities are built by strong individuals. It's not an either or choice there, it's an and. And then when I look at nature, again, I see a basic rethinking of our relationship for nature. For the last few hundred years, the dominant paradigm has been thinking that humans are somehow separate from nature and above it, above all the other species. We're now learning that no, we are part of nature, we're affected by it, and we are on par. It's a little virus now that's causing all the havoc with the COVID-19 incident. And what else have we seen recently? Record high temperatures, we've seen floods, we have seen massive droughts, we've seen incredible fires. The world is in revolt, and we've got to rethink our relationship with it. You know, we have thought we could do whatever we wanted to the natural world without consequences. Well, one of the things we teach in my negotiation class is every choice has consequences, and we're seeing those choices, the consequences playing out right now. So we're going to do a basic rethinking of what's our relationship with the wild. How do we come to a place where we all understand that in order for us to thrive, the rest of nature has to thrive as well. My focus on crisis leadership was actually more accidental than intentional, although looking back over my career and my life, I can see why I wound up here and why I get such satisfaction from it. First, and it's a bit ironic during this coronavirus outbreak, but came to realize that I'm only alive because of the 1918 pandemic. See, one of my grandmothers lost her first husband and her first two children to the Spanish influenza. That caused her to migrate from Great Britain to the United States. She met my grandfather, had 3 more children, who gave her 15 grandchildren, of whom I'm one, who have then given her multiple progeny beyond that. She's passed away now, but even when tragedy happens in a situation like this, rebirth occurs, and there will be rebirth after this as well. The second moment is 9/11. Now, if not for an accident of the calendar, I would have been on the American flight that flew into the World Trade Center towers that tragic morning. My colleague noticed there was a holiday coming up and asked if we could move our business trip a day earlier. So I flew that flight, American flight, on 9/10 instead of 9/11, and was safely in California that day. But those of us who were alive that day will never forget what happened and where we were. And I've always been grateful that I was spared that day, and have thought, now it's incumbent upon me to do work that helps give back and make the world a better place as best I can. The third is not quite so dramatic, but I was producing conferences at Harvard in my earlier career there. And I was asked to do one on business planning for pandemic. And so I didn't think about doing the technical things around viruses and all the epidemiology. I brought in ethicists. I brought in John Barry, who wrote the famous book about the 1918 influenza. And I brought in people about conflict resolution and negotiation. I thought in a time of pandemic, there's going to be a lot of conflict and a lot of need to figure out how to work together. It turns out that those 2 gentlemen who came in to talk about negotiation and conflict resolution later became my colleagues. They were at the National Preparedness Leadership Initiative at Harvard, and they asked me to join them in 2008. I've been there ever since, and through that work, writing and teaching and doing research, I've gotten to meet a lot of first responders, a lot of folks who work in long-term recovery, people who have dedicated their lives to keeping us safer, making our communities more robust and more vibrant. And it's been truly gratifying. And so the work I do now, I always say, if I can help them do their work just a little bit better, to lead a little bit more effectively, then we're all going to be better off. And I'll have given back and done my part by helping them do their part. And they do so much for all of our communities.